So yesterday I came out here during a break from all my finals because it was one of the last days of school. I just have one more final project left, which I'm not doing right this second because I need a little break, and that's it. I'm done with school for a month, so I'll have plenty of time to make videos and just focus on gardening. But I made an entire video yesterday just real quick during a break from my studies, and was walking around the garden with Sam, and my phone overheated. It was pretty warm and I was in direct sunlight, and then suddenly when it cooled down I went to check it and the video was gone completely. So I'm not sure exactly what I did, but it was definitely gone. And all my poor plants have been neglected because I've been so busy working on that and trying to get through this semester. So I'm kind of glad that it's over. I really do enjoy school, but it is a lot of work trying to balance everything else with school. I really am starting to understand why people who have a large garden call it a full-time job, because it really is. The amount of work that goes into all of this just is mind-boggling sometimes. The weeds have kind of taken over everything, and I'm just trying to get them away from the cucumber plants so that they're not crowded out for a couple more weeks until they can really start to take off. But it was warm for a few days, and between the heat and the rain that we were getting, they really shot up. But now it's windy. I'm trying to wrap them up a little bit because I'm worried about them getting broken in this wild weather. And since a good portion of them are starting to produce tendrils, which, if you don't know, this is a tendril right here. It's a part of the plant that attaches and allows it to climb up. So there are a couple of them, and they're starting to attach this fence and climb up. You can see right here, there are a couple of unopened flowers. So that's a new thing that's happening. Here's another unopened flower right down here. These are all male flowers. So they're not ready to produce fruit quite yet, but once male flowers start showing up, you know that it's only going to be a couple of weeks until female flowers show up, and probably about a month until we're harvesting fruit. Provided that the weather warms up again, because they're not big fans of this cool weather. It's actually some over here, but I guess the seeds probably moved whenever it was raining. And look, there's even some little, it's really close to the squash bed. So I'm actually going to walk around here to the other side and finish putting these up. Now, all of this probably needs to be cleared out, and I need to replant some seeds, because what happened is, I think over the course of the rain, when the seeds were first sown, they all moved, and so there's a big concentration of them down here, versus right here there's nothing but weeds kind of taking over. And so these are kind of trying to figure it out on their own, but they're really wrapping up. But the cool thing is, over here, which is what I wanted to show off yesterday, but it worked out because now they're actually open, was these, I'm actually going to, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm trying to wrap this up, but it's so windy. Down here, there are these flowers. These are cucumber flowers. They are the male flowers of the plant, and I saw them yesterday for the first time, and now they've opened up. And there's another one right here that'll probably open up later today or in the morning. So that's kind of what they look like. Now, these are salt and pepper cucumbers. They're from Johnny Seeds. So they're a white pickling cucumber. I've never grown them before, so I'm not even sure how large the vines are, because that's just information that I didn't see on their website. But this fence is somewhere just under 4 feet. So I'm interested to see how big they'll grow right here, and if all else fails, they can just fall over the other side and take over. And I also ended up finding some cucumber seeds for bush cucumbers that I didn't realize that I had. So as these squash start to kind of die out, I may use some of those, or I could replant squash here, of course. But all of the squash, the issue is that it keeps going from hot to cold, and we've gotten quite a bit, but I have seen a ton of squash bugs out here, even in my grass and on my blackberries, which tells me that I need to start some seeds, because they're probably going to catch some diseases or get eaten up by squash vine borers, which is not something I look forward to, but it is something that happens when the weather keeps constantly going from hot to cold and it's rainy. So it's really confusing for the plants, and obviously it exposes them to a lot of pests and a lot of diseases. And I really do need to come out here and some of these leaves, trim them off, but with how rainy it is, I know that trimming them off, it will just invite it in more problems, more diseases, and that's an issue. So I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. It's really one day to day, so I know that crazy weather is going to be here. It was storming all last night, but it didn't really affect me because I was doing my own thing with school. But the problem with the rain is, like on the squash plant, you can see it's really swollen, and they're never this swollen. So I've had to pick them before they have had time to fully establish, because they're getting fat instead of filling out in length first like they should, and that's because of all the rain. And you can see a bunch of them on this one. Now this poor plant has fallen over. Oh man, look at that. That looks like damage from a squash vine borer. I was gonna say it was probably the weather, but what happened, if you look at this, is a squash vine borer got into there, and with the rain, it looks like it just completely decimated the plant and cut it in half. It's really unfortunate, because these are one of my plants that just started producing. Now, all these little squash, even the one with the flowers, because the flowers are edible, all this can be eaten. I could take these in and eat them all right now. They would cook up really well, but I always give them to my geese and rabbits and kind of let them have a treat. I'm going to take all this out there. Man, that is some pretty extensive damage. So this right here, it kind of looks like sawdust. That's usually a telltale sign of a vine borer. So I think a combination of the vine borers and the weather probably killed that off. This looks like a little bit of damage, but I'm not sure if it's a vine borer or not. Overall, this plant looks pretty healthy. Man, even my little okra plant has been eaten up, and it's probably a combination of the cool weather, but I'm not too worried about these okra, because the minute that it warms up again, they're gonna shoot up out of the ground. And see, that's what I'm talking about. The squash are just fattening up. Instead of getting long, they should get a little long like this first, because these are saffron squash, so they're also kind of a crookneck squash. So they should get a little long and then fill out and fatten up. But what's happening is they're soaking up all that water from the rain, and instead of growing in length, they're just growing in width. And I had that issue earlier this week, and I had to pick a few out because of it. So I see it's continuing to be an issue. Look at this. This cracking right here. So I try to bury my plants if I can, and that, if that helps, because oh look, I found a worm when I was digging in here. That's cool. Because how that helps burying up the stem is that all the hair fibers on the roots will become more roots, and then if a squash vine borers at the end of the plant, I can pull it out, and then the plant will establish new roots and continue growing. But sometimes the damage is so extensive, like it cut that plant in half. Nothing was going to come from that. It wasn't going to continue growing after that. And look down here, I have some more squash. well, not quite ready to pick, but getting close. And there's a little okra hiding in there, trying to plan ahead so when the squash are done, the okra will be nice and big and take over. And this okra looks the healthiest. These are Clemson spineless okra, but they're a type called heavy hitter, and what it is a gentleman got a hold of some Clemson spineless seeds, and he over time chose seeds from those plants for their ability to produce the heaviest yields. And so these are considered high production crops, and in the pack I paid somewhere between $3 and $4 for it from Baker Creek. That's rareseeds.com, and there were 15 seeds in it, but from what I'm reading, people say 6 plants is enough, and that these plants have the ability to produce up to 250 pods per plant. I planted all 15 seeds, and I haven't lost a plant yet that I know of. And actually, let me walk over here and show. Here's one here, a little baby Clemson spineless plant, and one right here. Now they're growing slow because the weather's been so unpredictable, but I'm telling you, the moment that it warms up, they're going to shoot towards the sky. And you can tell that I've been working on school because there's just grass everywhere. So I'm really going to have to focus on the next couple of weeks coming out here and managing everything. So that is going to be some work in itself, but not having school until June will make a big difference in all of that. And it looks like there are a couple of blackberries that are ready. You can see just how windy it is and probably hear the wind in this video. It is blowing my plants like crazy. I'm actually wearing a jacket and pants right now because I'm quite chilly myself. I need to come around and pick all these blackberries. Some of them are not quite ripe, but I don't mind because I'm going to use them in jam. And so when they're cooked and sugar's added and everything else, it can be quite overwhelming if they're all incredibly ripe. Hey Shadow, I see you're in the garden again. He's just sleeping. I don't know why he wants to be out here sleeping when it's windy. Usually he'd want to be curled up on the couch or in bed with one of the boys, which everyone's kind of napping today. It's well after lunchtime, but because it's just cold and rainy and windy most of the day, everyone's curled up. My daughter even took a really long nap. She was kind of over everything today, and she just woke up from that. All these are finally starting to get berries too. Looks like there are a couple over there I need to walk around and get. Look at this. There are several here producing. There's one here. I'm going to go ahead and pick this. Now these are kind of tangy, so if you don't like sour food and you don't plan on making jams or jelly, I wouldn't recommend picking these when they still have red on them because they will be sour quick. And I'm not a fan of sour food either. Look at these. It's so cool how many squash these plants produce, I tell you what. Okay, let's see. Watch out, Shadow. I need to get past you. Thank you. Let's see. I still haven't, because I've been so busy, gotten around to making a video about my baby turkeys, but it was so funny when I went in there. That actually has some damage. Looks almost like silkworms. When I went in there this morning to feed and water them and kind of check up on them, 2 of them had flown out of their little brooder box and were walking around the room, and they're just as friendly as can be, came right up to me. I was really surprised to see them. And then I saw another one kind of jump up and flap its wings, so their wing feathers develop so quickly. Now they won't be able to fly for long, about 14 weeks. They'll be way too heavy. These are fast growing turkeys. And see where the bird was sampling this one. And this one kind of dried up on the plant a little bit. It's kind of hard. I think that one must have developed too quickly or ended up with some pest damage. When they harden like that, usually leaf-footed bugs, which you probably know as stink bugs, are the culprits because they get on there and they suck the juices out of the berries, which hardens them and makes them pretty gross. So here's what I'm picking off where Mockingbird has probably sampled them, but that's okay since she protects the garden from other big pests. Mockingbirds are quite territorial, so if I can allow one mockingbird to nest here, she gets quite protective over what she feels is hers and chases off neighborhood cats and everything else. She's quite funny. And here is another one. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. It's still light in color, but it's kind of squishy. And you can see just the amount of berries that are ripening, even with it being nice and cold out. They don't seem to care. And then new berries are forming right here. Now, when it's cooler, you can see some of these berries, they don't really produce, and it's not because of the temperature in itself, although that does play a factor in it. It can cause blossom drop. But also because there's not a lot of pollinators out right now in the wind and rain. So these are the flowers where they didn't get pollinated or they've already been picked. Here's a good example right here of kind of poor pollination. And look at this beautiful flower. And then here, they kind of look like this green right there if they are pollinated properly, and then they begin to grow larger. So you can definitely tell a difference. Because this is what they look like when the berry starts to form. Why are you staring at me like that? Are you waiting for me to go inside so you can go inside? Yuck, I accidentally put that chewed on berry in my pocket with the good berries and had to go dig it out. Okay. Looks like there is, that's pretty much it for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab these, oh, let me show you. So these are the watermelons. And this one over here, I accidentally broke the stem a little bit, but I buried it and it looks like it's still doing okay. So hopefully the wind doesn't rip these out. That's happened to me before and it's so frustrating. But now that the lettuce has been harvested, you can see that they're really starting to grow and take over, which I'm super excited about. There's just a little bit of lettuce in here. I harvested all that lettuce because I wanted to make room for these watermelons and because they're extremely hot. And then of course, as soon as I harvest it, the weather gets cool enough for them to grow again. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is just take this. Man, I still can't believe that. It's so unfortunate. And so this is why I said I was planting more squash because of vine borers, because it really is a real issue here. If you don't have any animals that will eat these squash, go ahead and take them off and fry them up, stir fry them, anything. They're so good. Even the nice young tender squash, they really are. Kind of reminds me of like baby corn and things of that nature and food. I really like that. I'm surprised these banana plants over here are holding up okay. Look at them. They're still growing despite the cool weather. As long as it's not a freeze, they're okay, but they definitely take off whenever it gets nice, warm, and rainy. What I need to do is divide them up because they've turned into a grove, even though I've divided them before and even got rid of some. Once you establish bananas, that's it. I hope you like bananas for the long haul. So, let me walk over here. The water in the swimming pool is awful because of all this rain, and it needs to be dumped out, it looks like. And then these guys are just enjoying everything. They love the water. You can see how much water we've gotten back here and how much is over here. So they are loving it. I think we're gonna go ahead and expand so they have more area to roam, but they don't mind at all. And see what a mess everything is. Just throw that out. The geese are immediately interested. Look at that. They're even eating the leaves. That's why I wait to compost things until after I can see what the geese want, because they're always going to have some kind of interest in it. Looks like they're not quite sure. Definitely interested in what I'm doing. Oh, there they go. The ducks want to sample it, but the geese do not want to let them in. This is their spot. They're even eating the stem. She's over there eating the stem. Or it broke in half. So, oh, look at them. They're getting so big. You can see where the water's just turned this back into a pond area. Which is a major reason why we started off with ducks. Chose to get them because it's just not good for chickens to be out here wading through all of this water. But the ducks absolutely adore the water. Look at her diving, having the best time. So when it gets cold like this, you can see some of them have fluffed up their feathers, and it's to keep themselves insulated but also help them float. Can you believe that these are our babies? Look how big they've gotten. They're almost the size of full-size ducks, you know, adult ducks. My last ducks, they started laying before 5 months old. So I'm excited to see how soon these lay, because it looks like out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of those 7 ducklings, 5 of them are, at least 5 are females. I know for sure one's a male. I'm thinking 2 are. So it looks like 5 females, and out of the younger Welsh Harlequins, we have 2 females. So that's an additional 7 girls. And they are going to start laying by the end of the year, probably by the end of the summer. So that's going to be a good amount of eggs. Right now I'm getting 3 to 4 eggs a day. Even with it believe it or not, we put algicide in there, livestock safe algicide. It did nothing. It did not help at all. So we're gonna have to figure something out for that, because the algae is just out of control. Baby geese don't seem to mind. Are you guys having fun playing? They are not fighting or upset, in case you guys are wondering and you're not used to geese. This is them playing. They love splashing around. They love walking around. They're very entertaining. You know, geese like to play too, so it's kind of interesting and fun to watch. If you have a body of water for your waterfowl, I highly recommend, you know, hanging out with them and just watching them play. It is hilarious to watch. And watching them dive is so much fun too. Will you stop playing King of the Pond and get in so they can get in? He's just standing there. Oh, I'll take that back. That's she. She's just standing there, and the other ones are trying to get in, and she is not letting them. She's standing on top. Oh, there she goes. So now everyone else will probably follow. This is my favorite part of raising them. They're so much fun to watch them dive. And you can also see them deep dive, and they'll move like 4 feet with one flap of their wings underwater. It's pretty incredible. Oh, now everyone else is in there, mom and baby, so Mr. Dorian wants in on this action. He's like, my whole family's in there without me. Nice thing about having a pond within a pond is letting them have that big body of water up there to kind of deep dive and play in, and then it lets the ducks have their own space without anybody messing with them. And then you'll see over time we'll clear all of this out. We'll probably dig down a little deeper, but we didn't dig any of this out. This part of our yard just naturally holds a ridiculous amount of water, so it did its own thing and it really worked out for us and our waterfowl. Are you guys having fun? Well, I'm probably gonna head inside. I have a lot to do around the house because I didn't do what I was supposed to when I was focusing on getting through the end of the semester. It's kind of crunch time because in about a year I'll be applying for my master's degree program and starting that. So I have no more time to mess and play around. It's getting really serious. But I don't try to do anything super crazy with school because really the focus is taking care of my children, especially with their needs. And what I'm learning really benefits them. I'm thinking I'm gonna go ahead and apply for my master's of cognitive and muscular science. So it's a combination of kind of brain sciences with exercise science. That's really what I'm thinking about, and that'll be incredibly beneficial, and also challenge me a bit. But I'll still have the homestead and everything else. It's just my family is always my main focus. And then now I've recently been offered a job at the local hospital working in the inpatient rehab on weekends. So I'll be doing that part-time. That still gives me Monday through Friday to focus on my family and school and homestead. But you may see a little less content because I'm going to be a lot more busy. But it's kind of nice just kind of getting my foot back into work and getting to learn some new things and apply what I've learned, but also not taking away from everything else. Because if you don't know this, before our daughter became so sick that she was hospitalized for on and off, it was just ridiculous. She had a difficult time going to school and everything else because there are policies which make perfect sense, because after you have 1 or 2 seizures, you're absolutely exhausted. But when it becomes frequent with hospitalizations, then it makes it really difficult to go to school and maintain a normal life with all those doctor's appointments, which was a huge influence in why we're homeschooling. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm against public school education. I think that there are a lot of families that public school is the best option for them. It's the safest option. I know when I was younger, things weren't always the best when it came to us growing up and the things we were exposed to. And public school was the safest option. You know, it's where we were guaranteed to get 3 meals, or not necessarily 3 meals, but breakfast and lunch. And then schools also have options, you know, during summer lunch and dinner programs and everything else. So, you know, those were necessary for us. There are parents that work. There are parents with sick children. So just because I homeschool, I don't want people to sit around thinking that we're bashing public school. I'm absolutely not. I have a public school education. I went to public school until I graduated high school, and honestly, it was the safest and best place for me. Now, that's not always the case, but I never ever want to see on my platform where people say that public school is 100% bad and should be abolished. I see that a lot lately, and it's a terrifying thought because there are a lot of children out there, and I was one of them, and my parents were some of them, where public school is the safest option. And despite everything going on out there, sometimes it's safer than being at home. Sometimes they need that for parents to be able to provide for their children. Sometimes there are services that the schools offer that parents are unable to get outside of the education system. So there's just a lot of things that I want you guys to consider. I don't think that any one way is right, but I just kind of wanted to clarify what my stance is on that, because I'm all for homeschooling and I'm all for public school. I think that the whole point of freedom is to be able to choose which option is best for your children. And sometimes that's going between both options, homeschooling for a bit and then going back to public school, or vice versa. You know, that's the cool thing about getting to choose and being in the state of Texas. So now that I've gone on my little rant about, you know, public school and homeschool, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here, because I really do need to kind of take care of the homesteading chores and take care of, you silly goose, look at you flipping yourself over, and take care of everything else that needs to be done around here, like dishes and laundry. But I really thank you guys for hanging out with me, dealing with my randomness, my forgetfulness, my little tangents that I go on when I'm filming, but also learning with me, because I am definitely still learning. It has been a challenging but rewarding process. That is the nicest way to put it. So thank you guys again. You're so silly.